Welcome to TV Africa News. Thank you so much for joining us and always being part of us. This is Africa Today. My name is Nahavika Kajura, but first, other headlines. The Deputy Speaker of Parliament, Tayebo, urges players in the banking sector to lower lending rates. UK to send first batch of asylum seekers to Rwanda. Presidential candidate Odinga picks Martha Karua as running mate. In sports today, FIFA officials arrive in Uganda ahead of Women Club licensing workshop. Once again, thank you so much for joining us. We start with one of our top stories. The Deputy Speaker of Parliament, Thomas Tayebwa, has implored Bank of Uganda and all players in the banking sector to consider lowering lending rates in order to encourage more production and counter unanticipated inflation due to the rising commodity prices. Now, Tayebwa said he was concerned that cost of capital in the banking sector has remained high, thereby discouraging low-income earning citizens from meaningful investments. We have the report. The Deputy Speaker of Parliament, Thomas Tayebwa, was speaking during a dinner at Sheraton Kampala Hotel hosted by EcoBank last week to bid farewell to Ken Karisa, the outgoing board chairperson of EcoBank. He said it is in the interest of the government that even the lowest earning individual participates in wealth creation, which would be made possible through low-cost credit. He appealed to banks to support the parish development model, where the government will extend cheap credit to low-income earners to ably participate in wealth creation. He was also concerned that despite the decline in the cost of barrel of fuel prices in Uganda are instead soaring. Tayebwa said that Uganda has a problem of prices not getting down once they get up, giving an example of fuel where the barrel was around $120 and when the barrel went back to $50, prices remained at $5,000. Bank of Uganda's Deputy Governor, Dr. Michael Atinji Igo, reiterated the urgent need to support agriculture production so as to combat the likely inflation, which he said is associated with deficits on the supply side. Moving on, the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development has officially launched the budget month ahead of the 2022-2023 budget trading. Now, officials from the Ministry of Finance say it will focus on the recovery of the economy.
While addressing journalists at the Government Media Centre in Kampala, the Permanent Secretary to the Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, Ramadan Gowi, said as the country moves towards reviving the economy from the COVID-19 pandemic, the budget will now focus mainly on the current issues that have interest of all citizens.
Therefore, this year's budget month is shaped towards informing you, the citizens, on what is happening in the country and the way forward in terms of solutions to the current challenges, which I'm sure we are very much aware of.
He said that they have put a number of initiatives to support the recovery of the economy. According to Gobi, the 2022-2023 budget is a greatly pro-people's budget. Finance Minister Matia Gasaija highlighted the impact of paying taxes towards economic development.
When you pay your tax duly, you are investing in yourself. Because when you give me that money, I do things which you cannot do as a businessman or a businesswoman or even a citizen. So you are investing for yourselves. Because you can't do a road. You can't do an airport. You can't build a university. So, from the collections of these taxes, we come here and sit and appropriate and we begin to execute in accordance with the desires and the programs that the people of the country require.
Parliament approved the National Budget Financial Plan on January 28, 2022, and this formed a basis for the finalization of budget estimates for 2022-2023.
Moving on in our top stories, the Minister of Health, Honorable Dr. Jane Ruth Acheng, has flagged off 5 ambulances to districts to address emergency health issues such as accidents. Now, these were produced by government on Uganda through Uganda Reproductive and Maternal Child Health Program. We have the report.
The 5 ambulances were flagged off to 5 districts of Ntungamo, Wakiso, Kanunko, Manafa and Lira, and this will help in addressing major health issues like accidents, not forgetting pregnant women and children.
Our hope is that we have a strong fleet that can respond in real time to these emergencies and get the people safely to where they can get proper care, but also attend to the needs of the women and children in the various districts. And so my humble appeal to the districts that are receiving the ambulances today is to remember that these ambulances should not be parked at the districts. The ambulances will be coordinated through the regional referral hospitals, meaning the regional referral hospitals have the first call on the ambulances because of the referral system.
Speaking to the press during the flagging off at their headquarters in Kampala, the Health Minister Dr. Jane Ruth Acheng cautioned the recipient districts to put to use these ambulances instead of parking them at their offices.
This will be supported through the Emergency Medical Services Ambulance System and Fund that we have been provided for through the Parliament of Uganda to ensure that the ambulances are maintained and they are fueled. We have had several challenges with drivers of ambulances who do contrary to what the ambulances are meant to do. We have had several ambulances crashed. We have had ambulances used for ferrying other things other than patients, and some of these have been brought to book. My appeal is that the ambulances should be used for the work that they are intended for, and that is to care for the sick. The ambulances are not for carrying dead bodies because those are no longer emergencies. Neither are they supposed to be used for carrying foodstuff. I appeal to the different districts to ensure that these ambulances are serviced all the time and ready for use whenever they are required.
Dr. Jane Ruth Acheng said that these ambulances were procured by the government of Uganda through the Uganda Reproductive and Maternal Child Health Program, monitored by the Parliament of Uganda.
FPS handing over to you an ambulance valued at $60,000 to support the referral system in Omoro district. We hope that this ambulance will be used for its intended purpose to benefit those who need services the most. It is also our hope that the ambulance handed over today will reduce delays to the referral service provision for emergency obstetric and neonatal care, including post-abortion care, and this should contribute to improving the quality of reproductive health for women in Omoro district and beyond.
On the other hand, the minister also handed over 1 ambulance to Omoro district donated by the United Nations Funds Program, UNFPA, to support the referral systems in that district. The UNFPA country representative, Dr. Mary Otieno, said this will reduce on delayed health services in Omoro district and also reduce on the death rates.
Well, thank you so much for your reporter. Africa Today takes a quick break. We shall come back with the international news. Welcome back for the break. You're still watching TV Africa, the right to know. In our international news, the United Kingdom will send the first batch of asylum seekers to Rwanda in the coming days, a month after a deal to resettle illegal migrants was signed with the East African country. We have the report.
Under the scheme, for which Kigali will be paid $160 million, asylum seekers arriving on small boats across the English Channel from France will immediately be transferred to Rwanda, where their paperwork will be processed. In an interview with a local daily, UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson said that 50 people who arrived illegally in the country after crossing the channel had been informed that they would be flown to Rwanda. Those affected have between 7 and 14 days to file objections. The policy targets migrants who entered the country after January 1, 2022. The deal has been the subject of intense criticism by charities, refugee rights organizations, and activists. Activists say the arrangement breaches the 1951 Refugee Convention, a United Nations treaty that stipulates that signatory states must not impose penalties on asylum seekers and refugees on account of their illegal entry or stay. Others have pointed to Rwanda's own questionable human rights record. The United Nations High Commission for Refugees has urged the UK and Rwanda to reconsider the arrangement.
Away from that, Kenyan Azimio la Umoja presidential candidate Raila Odinga announced on Monday he had chosen Martha Karua to serve as his running mate. Kenyan Azimio la Umoja presidential candidate Raila Odinga announced that he picked the Honorable Martha Wangari Karua as his running mate and Cabinet Secretary for Justice and Constitutional Affairs. Karua, a former presidential candidate herself, was nicknamed Iron Lady as she fought her way up the male-dominated Kenyan political arena. If the pair win the polls, Karua would become Kenya's first female deputy president. The announcement came a day after Deputy President William Ruto picked Rigathi Gachagua, a former aide turned critic of President Uhuru Kenyatta, to be his running mate. Many observers believe this year's presidential contest will be a two-horse race between Ruto and Odinga. President Kenyatta, who cannot run for re-election, has chosen to side with his former rival Odinga. A record 46 presidential candidates are among over 7,000 who will vie in the August 9 general elections. Moving on, Guinea-Bissau's President Umaro Sissoco Embalo dissolved on Monday the country's parliament and called for parliamentary elections by the end of the year. Take a look at this story.
In an address to the nation, President Umaro Sissoco Embalo cited persistent and unresolvable differences in the legislative body. He called for early parliamentary elections in December. The parliament has long been dominated by African Party for Independence of Guinea and Cape Verde. President Embalo's party, Madem G15, did not secure the majority of the seats during the 2019 election, which fueled tension between the legislative and the executive branch. Corruption and embezzlement is also one of the issues raised. While defending his move, President Embalo said the 10th legislature has turned the People's National Assembly into a place of political guerrilla, warfare and conspiracy, adding that many deputies have worked to weaken the institution of the republic instead of doing everything to strengthen them. Guinea-Bissau's path to stability has been odorous. Despite elections, the country has seen coups who attempted coups since it gained independence from Portugal in 1974. The latest of which took place in February and cost the life of 11 people. During what was described as a failed coup, perpetrators killed 11 people.
Away from that, Mali late on Monday announced that security forces had thwarted a counter-coup attempt that it said was supported by an unnamed Western government. Now, the announcement was the latest turmoil and unfold in the West African nation, where Colonel Assimi Goïta led coups in 2020 and 2021 before becoming president. The government spokesperson, Colonel Abdoulaye Maiga, on state television said that those soldiers were supported by a Western state. He did not name the country in question. However, relations with former colonizer France have deteriorated significantly under Goïta's rule. The breakdown in relations prompted the French military to begin a withdrawal of its forces that had spent 9 years fighting Islamic extremists. Maiga said that the government condemned with the utmost rigor this outrageous attack. He continued that the attempt was meant to hinder or even annihilate the substantial efforts to secure their country and return to a constitutional order that guarantees peace and stability. Maiga said security forces had put down the coup last Wednesday night. He added that security was increased as checkpoints on the roads leaving the capital Bamako and at the country's border in an effort to catch accomplices. The accusations of foreign interference came as Goita's regime is becoming increasingly isolated. Well, thank you so much, reporter. We take a quick break. We shall come back with business, health, and sports. Welcome back for the break. You're still watching TV Africa, the right to know. In a business news today, the South African state-owned electricity utility will implement power cuts during evening peak on Monday and Tuesday, according to Andre de Ruta, the CEO.
Eskom CEO said on Monday the return to a typical winter pattern during the evening made it harder for the system to handle the demand. Between 5 p.m. and 10 p.m., South Africans will therefore have to reduce the usage of electricity and to switch off all non-essential items. Several power stations not working have contributed to the breakdown. Some were offline due to planned maintenance, but the Southern African country experiences a 16,307 megawatts loss in generating capacity due to breakdowns. Consequently, load shedding will be increased to stage 4 according to the statement, adding that it would only be implemented as a last resort to protect the national grid. Load shedding comprises of 8 stages, and the higher the load shedding stage, the more frequently customers experience it. Stage 4 means power cuts could be increased to 4,000 megawatts. If the impact will be less pronounced on business owners, the domestic consumers will bear the brunt. Ongoing electricity disruption threatens to affect South Africa's economy. It is estimated that in 2020, load shedding cost South Africa's economy 500 million rands per stage per day.
In Africa Today Health, more than 18 million people are on lifelong HIV treatment worldwide, but an almost equal number do not have access to treatment. Yet, according to the World Health Organization, many are held back by the fear of stigma. Now, Kenya is trialing injected drugs, which only need to be given once every 2 months.
1.5 million people in Kenya are HIV positive, and 1 million of them are estimated to be receiving antiretroviral medicines, according to the Kenyan Health Ministry. Beta Agola, a HIV-positive mother of 6, is hopeful about the possibility of switching injectable antiretroviral therapy, saying that she won't be having the drugs in her bag anymore and there will be no more injection, discrimination or stigma. At the Nairobi Kenyatta National Hospital, pediatric infectious disease specialist Wangui Kamau knows the inconsistent use of the drugs means they are less effective. She is keen on the prospect of a less frequent and more discreet treatment. A trial of 160 patients is underway in Kenya. The first one was injected with drugs Riprevin and cabotegravir back in March. If generalized, the treatment could help avoid antiretroviral therapy pill shortages. The antiretrovirals are already approved in the UK and in the US, but African specialists believe it is important to assess the performance of injectables on Africa. The patients in all the trials will be monitored for 2 years. The exercise is still in the experimental stage. Once it is completed, it will advance to deciding which patients are to be on injectable antiretrovirals. According to the Kenyan Health Ministry, 82,000 children in the country are HIV positive, 870,000 are female and aged 14 and above. Like Kenya, Uganda and South Africa are also trailing the injectables.
In our sports news today, FIFA officials have arrived in the country ahead of the Women Club Licensing Workshop aimed at advancing the professionalization of women's game, accelerating the development of the game at all levels, building on the existing senior league, and helping the member association achieve its strategic plans.
The licensing exercise sets standards that clubs ought to fulfill in order to become self-reliant and business-oriented. Key focus areas in club licensing include governance, marketing and communication, among others. FIFA has over the years put this into practice, and there is even will to make better strides in the next years. It is upon this background that FIFA officials are in the country ahead of the Women Club Licensing Workshop slated for Thursday, 19th May 2022 at Imperial Real Hotel. Andres Portabella, the FIFA Club Licensing Consultant, and Bruno Van Hellemont, the FIFA Professionalization Manager in the Women Football Division, arrived in Uganda on Sunday. The two were welcomed to FIFA Complex by FIFA and Vice President Honorable Florence Nachiwala Chinji, FIFA CEO Edgar Watson, alongside Deputy CEO Football Decolas Kiza, FIFA Executive Committee member Rogers Mujisha, and FIFA Licensing Manager Ivan Chintu Vaige.
It is at this particular time that I thank you for being part of us and always joining us. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We shall keep updating you. It is TV Africa, the right to know.